40% that you're normal weight, 20% that you're overweight, and then 40% that you're obese. And it worked. So yes, I trained it. How to build the perfect GPT. And this is the problem we are solving in this quick video. So let's dive right in. Okay, so to create this video, I have created a GPT. So I got a database, built an API, built a GPT, and I called it the Obesity Predictor. And this is the GPT here. And it's very simple. It's a GPT that you give it your gender and your age, and it will give you the probability of being underweight, normal weight, overweight, or obese. So let's take it step by step and see how I've built this thing. The first thing I've done is find myself a database. Huge amount of sources online with free databases. Some of them even are paid. So if you want to acquire something, pay for something to get something not anyone is willing to pay for, there are databases, huge ones, huge datasets online that you can buy for, pay for, acquire, and use. But for creating this video, I went to a website called datahub.io. It has lots of datasets. Go there. Some of them are paid, some of them are not. I found myself one which is free. It was a database of people, their age, gender, activity level, obesity, weight, height. So the first thing I did is I downloaded my database and I've imported it into Airtable. This is Airtable. The reason is that Airtable as a tool works really well with so many no-code tools, and everything here I'm going to show you is no-code or low-code. So we have our database, and if you see here, it's a 1000 record database. Obviously, the more records you have, the better outcome it can give you in terms of probability, but this is just a sample. This is the one I could get for free. The next step, I have a database, I want to build an API. And the best tool I found to build an API, which is something I've never done before. This is my first time to showcase an API that I've built. First API I've built is a tool called Xano. It's a no-code, low-code kind of API building tool. It does many things. It's a back-end development tool. So usually back-end is code-heavy. This is a back-end tool that gives you logic for your application or software, whatever you're creating, with no code. Okay, so database, let's jump to Xano. So this is Xano, and just play with it, get familiar with it. Let me go for the first thing you need to do when you build an API. You need a database. So you can go here on the left panel, under the dashboard, you'll find a database. So basically you go here and you add a table. Click add a table, and then there's add and there's import. And what do you see here in the import option? Airtable. This is why I like Airtable. Airtable is one of the most common tools when it comes to integrations, when it comes to databases as well. So I will not do this now because I've done it already. So I basically connected it to my own Airtable and I linked it to the database that I've shown you from my Airtable, which is this one. So let's go back to Xano. So this is the database I've built. It is the same. And because it's connected to Airtable, if I create any automation outside that actually builds up on the database, on the Airtable database, it will automatically come through into my API. So we have a database. Now we need some logic to be able to get inputs that will specify, that will go through a process and give certain outputs. Okay, to do that logic, we'll go to API. And there's obviously enough, there's a tab called API. So as we click on it, it takes us to this page. So we'll go to the Obesity Predictor. This is the logic stack I've built. And you can see once you click on it, you'll go to the page of this specific API. And here you have the endpoints. And this is something around APIs. You'll have to touch APIs just to understand what's an endpoint. So each API will usually have deliverables, specific information it brings back based on certain input. You can define more of those for your API. So for me, I want just to give them, the user, that is, the probability of them being obese. So I have one endpoint, which is get obesity probability. This video is not about using Xano as a tool. If you want me to create on this same example a detailed video where I break down step by step how I built this API in Xano, please write a comment in the comment section and I'll gladly do it for you. But I need you to ask me to do so. Okay, so we said there's three things: input, function, output. So for the input, basically, I've defined two that I will ask people to provide: an age and then gender. And you need to decide what type of information that is. Is it an integer? Is it something else? So I will show the age one just for example. just for you to get familiar with Xano. So I click it. Basically, you define the basic concepts behind your input. It's an integer, it's a number basically, and I put minimum 10. So basically, if you put any age under 10, you're gonna get an error. This is just to test it, to play with it when I built the API. So now we have the inputs. The first thing I need to do is I have an age and I have a gender. I need to see just that combination, this age and gender, how many records out of the total records we have. So the first thing we create is a query function. Again, it's something that in the function stack you can create by clicking this button here, and you can select so many things, different functions, loops, queries, records. So basically I ask it to go to the database and check if the age as it comes as an input equals the age in the database, and it's an and condition, the gender in the input equals the gender in the database. All these cases where the gender and age exactly match, count those for me. Get me that sub database, that part of that database that we have. Now we've said it's a very simple logic. We want to calculate the probability of obesity. So just a quick thought about calculating such a thing. So we need the number of records of that sub database that we have. So for any record that matches the age and the gender, how many records are total out of the total database, which we know is 1000 records. So we'll have to count that, and we need a variable for that. So we have to create that variable. And then I need to count within that sub database how many I have as underweight, how many I have normal weight, how many I have overweight, and how many I have obese. So one counter for the whole and one counter for each of the 4 categories. So I need 5 variables as a start. So I did the query, and here I'm defining those variables. It's very easy to use here in Xano, very intuitive. So what you do here is simply you select that you need a variable, you add a variable in the function stack, you decide what type of variable is it. Is it an integer? Is it something else? Is it string? Whatever the function and what you're trying to achieve here. So I created these 5 variables that I talked about, and I defined them. Now, having those variables, I need to start building the logic. How do I use them? So I just described it. Now I actually want the logic to perform it for me. So the first one is I need to go through the query that I got. So I got part of the whole database, the part of that database that matches exactly that age and that gender. Now within those, I need to do the counting for the categories. How do I do that? Simple. It's an if statement that goes in a loop. So for each of the queried records, I will look at the category, which is clearly mentioned in the database. So if I go for a second to the database, you can see it's called the obesity category here. So, and there's only 4 options. So this is what I want to start counting within the query that I got back. Query is basically a fancy word for the filtration. I filter the data to an age and a gender, okay? I'll go back here. This is the if statement. So for each record, I'm gonna ask, is it, let's start with underweight. Is it underweight, true or not? If it's true, count it. That's happening in the loop. And every time it finds an underweight record, it will add 1 to this variable. And this addition happens in the then part of the if then. So each time the if statement is true, I'm simply adding 1. It's a very simple addition equation. I'm adding 1 to the variable which we named the underweight count. And then I'm creating another 3 loops, each for normal weight, overweight, and obese. So once we are at this point of the logic here, we have all of them counted. I know the total number of records already. I have a count of all records that match the age and gender. And within those, I have 4 counts, a count for each of the categories of weight: under, normal, over, and obese. Now I have everything needed to start doing my calculations to create those percentages. And what I do now is I create 4 variables. Each variable is basically the percentage of each weight category. So percentage of underweight, percentage of normal weight, overweight, and obese. And these are the variables that you've seen, created in the same way I created the original variables. Very easy, very straightforward. From this point on, I've defined those variables as percentages. Now I need to update them based on the calculation. And I do the calculation for each of them accordingly. So when you click the update variable, this is what you get. And this is something in Xano called an expression. It looks like code, something like that, to build equations in Xano. I went to Xano's documentation, took the section that talks about those kind of expressions, dropped it to my GPT, my Xano GPT, and it basically wrote them for me. And as an example, this is taking the count of underweight, dividing it by the total records, multiplying it by 100, and then I think it's just rounding it by 2 and then defining the format as percentage. So the outcome is a percentage basically. And it's doing the update variable for the 4 of them. So we have the inputs, we have the function stack where we query those specific inputs, and then we create the counting part of the function, and then we do the actual calculation for the percentages. And then we have the function ready, but we need to wrap it in some kind of output to send back through the API. So this is what we cover in the response. So here, if you look at the response, ignore the grayed out ones. Those are ones when I was experimenting until I figured it out. I deactivated them. The ones that are active are those ones. So here I'm defining that as part of the response. I want to get the total record just for my update, my use, not necessarily to the user, and I'll show you now how. And then I want the 4 percentages: underweight, normal weight, overweight, and obese. So I will get that back in my response. So basically, you give me an age and a gender, and I give you 5 things: a total record count, and then the percentage of each of the categories. Now, I have an API. I can test it, by the way, natively within Xano. So if I go back to the API here, I again click on this one. When I'm here in my API again, you look at this section, you can just go and click documentation, Swagger, and here you can basically see your endpoints and you can test each one. So for example, here you can input a value for the age and input a value for the gender, and then you can try, so you can click try it out here, enter an age, let's say 24, age, gender, male, and then hit execute. It will run, and you're getting here, you can see you're getting percentages and you're getting the total records. So out of the 1000, there was 6 records of people who are 24 and male. And then you're getting the percentage of each weight category for these within these 6 records. So it is working. So I've tested it, it's working. I can close this now. I have my API ready, but I need to put it in a GPT. So let's go back to what we're familiar with, ChatGPT. So I will go to my GPTs, click on it here, and then I go to my GPT and I'll go to editing my GPT. This is something that we need to configure in the actions. And you can see this is what I was referring to. Click on it, and this is where you basically edit your action. So I have no authentication for this one here. I'm not charging any money for it. I don't need to authenticate that, or there's no private information here. Everything I did through a schema. And then you will ask me, hey, Samer, you know how to build schemas? Hell no, I know nothing about building a schema. What I've done is very easy. Went to ChatGPT, took the details of my database in Xano. Let me show you this in Xano quickly. So if we go to the database section in Xano, if you remember, and we click on the database that we've loaded from Airtable, there's a small button here I figured out through, again, ChatGPT by chance, called Show Schema. And here it will show you how each variable is defined. So you take this one, and then if you remember from previous videos, when you create an action, you can actually get here an example or sample of a schema. That sample is basically something OpenAI is giving us to tell us how their GPTs understand those schemas. I don't know. This is what I'm figuring out. So I took that sample, I gave it to ChatGPT, I gave it the schema I got from the database I've just shown you, and then I asked it to build a schema for me based on everything it understands so far around my API, my database schema, and the schema example from ChatGPT to build me one that actually works with this GPT. It took, I would say, 10 to 15 times of trials and errors. Seems a lot, it wasn't. It happened quickly. Testing, because when it works, the first time you put the schema and it works, you will get here the available actions. So you get the endpoint. And then you can automatically test it here. So this is the second test. You test it. If you get percentages, it means at least you have, through ChatGPT, built the schema that actually can talk to that API. And then you run it. And let me show you how that looks. So I have this GPT here. I'll click on it and it's open, and it says it's a BMI calculator, which is not actually, and the health analyst. So you can see the initial standard inputs I'm asking people to use is enter your age as an integer and specify your gender as male or female. Again, so if a user does it like 24M, it might not work properly. Although I can, either in the logic, maybe easier, do it actually in training the GPT itself to, for example, use M and enter it into the API request into the call as male, and do the same for female. We'll test it now. I think I did it. I did this like 2 weeks back, so let's test it. So I'm gonna test it now with a 32-year-old female. As usual, always allow. So it's making the call, and we got back the percentages. So underweight, it's not me, it's the database. If you're a 32 female, there's a 0% that you're underweight, 40% that you're normal weight, 20% that you're overweight, and then 40% that you're obese. So it is working. Now let me try with not the perfect input. So let me say I am a 40M, M for male, and it worked. So yes, I trained it. Now thinking of GPTs, in theory, anyone can build any GPT, but what does it mean to have a perfect GPT? In reality, there is no such thing, but you can build a GPT that makes it closer to an application and less than just a glorified ChatGPT session. Well, thinking about it, there is 2 ways. Number one is either you have access to a really unique database. That could be a database that you've acquired somehow or built and developed yourself through an audience that you have or a community that you're part of. If you have that unique, really special database, then you don't even need to go to actions and APIs. You only need to load that database to your GPT, prompt it, and train it. So when users interact with it, they can get that special information from that database based on their conversations. And if it's something built where lots of people need that information that you cannot find out there anywhere, and you future-proof it, then you might have a special GPT at your hands. The other way to do it is maybe you don't have that special out of reach kind of database. You have a database, a good database of information. Yes, that is relevant to many people, but is not so special that will get people to go after your GPT. Then you can add functionality. So this is the second area. Build functionality around your GPT that can deliver specific or special type of delivery of information to the users that they will go after. This involves a more technical skill, which is using an API. Well, the second part, which is around APIs, breaks down to 2 more options. You acquire a public API. Some of them are free and some of them are paid. So you can pay for an API, feed it to your GPT through actions, and get something special to your users. Or you can build that API yourself. But what I want to do today is, in a very short video, to give you steps to go with a standard, maybe public database, take that database and build an API off of it, and then use that API into a GPT. That GPT that you build can be something really special, and it can get as close as possible to the perfect GPT, even with things that are available online. A simple example that is enough to give you curiosity and inspiration, hopefully, to go do something that is really special. The only thing I ask for is that you comment on this video if you create something based or even slightly influenced or supported by watching this video, and tell me what you did exactly. So by the end of this video, this might have been much. I want to insist on one thing that I've touched on many times across this video. I am not a coder. This whole thing I'm doing on YouTube is around that. You can do all of this on ChatGPT. Now, if you want me to create specific videos on any of the parts of this video in detail, where I dig deeper step by step on building any part, especially the API and the database, please leave me a comment in the comment section. And hopefully this fulfills my promise. So if you start to get into building your own API or building your own database or doing a combination of both, you will definitely be able to build special, close to perfect GPTs that I am confident will have much more odds in succeeding in the GPT market compared to the things that you can create just by prompting a GPT like anyone else can do. If you do these 2 things or a combination of them, you are doing something unique that most people will not even try to do. I might not have built something so special, but equipped with this knowledge, you might be much more creative than I am, and you might create the next special GPT that everyone goes after. So if you learned something from this video, if you found value in it, if I didn't confuse the hell out of you, please hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, share this video, and leave a comment in the comment section. All of these things give me feedback and encourage me, more importantly, to create more content like this. I will have some of my other videos in the description mentioned that are related to this video of today, and also 2 other videos here and here that you might like to watch. With this, thank you and goodbye.